Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T? Welcome to the 2025 NFL Draft Prospects 101 series, your guide to some of the biggest and hottest names of the 2025 NFL Draft. We're wrapping up the receiver position with Volume 1, ranks 7 through 1 or 1 through 7, with whatever way you want to phrase it. This is the creme de la creme of the wide receiver position, in my humble opinion. Obviously, opinions differ, and beauty is in the eye of the beholder, as I always tell you this time of the year. With that said, some of these guys, there's just no ifs, ands, or buts about it as to where they rank in terms of towards the top of the draft class of receivers. We've talked about the draft overall and how it's not necessarily the best draft in terms of blue chip players necessarily, but you can find yourself good quality starting NFL football players. We've talked about that. This position is no different. But if you're looking for a true number one, and I've said this multiple times throughout this process, if you're looking for a true number one wide receiver, this draft may not provide it for you, right? But there are guys that have the ability to do it. And these are going to be some of the guys that are going to give you the best opportunity for that to take place, right? So we'll get to that list today. We'll talk about those players in question, what they bring to the table, how they can impact a team, where I think they ultimately lie in this draft, where they can get better, and etc., and how they can become the best versions of themselves. So with that said, let's get to my list of wide receivers to wrap up this position. And we start at number 7. This is a guy that a lot of Commanders fans early on in the process were very interested in. I feel like some of his heat has cooled somewhat, but doesn't change the fact that he's a very talented football player. And so I'm talking about Ole Miss's Trey Harris, wide receiver at 6'2", 205 pounds, ran a 4.5 4.40 at the combine. And I don't know what some people were expecting out of him from a speed perspective. I think there might have been some that expected him to run faster. When he didn't post a faster time, they soured on him a little bit. They moved on to the next shiny toy, or shiny prospect for that matter. Whatever the case may be, he's big, he's physical, he plays at that big physical size. He's very physically imposing. And I didn't love the Ole Miss offense. Some of these offenses you watch these players produce in, it's hard to watch. You know, when you're someone like myself who is a student of the pro game, loves the NFL and all that it brings to the table, and you watch how NFL offenses do a great job of implementing some of the college, I'm trying to find the right phrase. Some of the college concepts, and it makes it for an easier transition. But when you watch some of these college offenses, they're so elementary, they're so repetitive. Again, their job isn't to get these players ready for the NFL necessarily. Their job is to win football games. And whatever is the best way for you to do that with the utilization of your talent, that's what you do. But some of these offenses, my God, they're hard to watch. He played in one that was not the best on the eyes. However, I did love the way that they put him in motion. They moved him around. And I think that helps with a guy that I don't necessarily know is going to be able to separate all that much at the NFL level. Not the quickest guy in the world, obviously, not the fastest guy, but he can run. And in that regard, I liken him to an AJ Brown. And it's so easy to try to comp him to an AJ Brown or a former Ole Miss receiver, because as I always tell you this time of the year, schools have a type. And a lot of times, like yesterday, for instance, I talked about Isaiah Bond and how he looks just like Jaylen Waddle. Well, the reason he does is because Alabama has a type, and there's certain receivers that fit their DNA profile and that they're looking to recruit, right? Because if you have success with one, hey, why not do this guy? He looks like him, he plays like him, he runs like him. Let's go with this guy. He'll probably give us the same results, right? And that's not a faulty way of thinking. It just doesn't always work. But generally, a program has a type. Ole Miss has a type. They like them big, they like them fast, they like them physical, right? DK Metcalf, AJ Brown, Trey Harris, Laquan Treadwell, you get the picture, right? Not all of them pan out. Obviously, Laquan Treadwell did not fare well in the NFL, but that doesn't stop them from continuing to recruit that type of athlete. That said, he's not as big as an AJ Brown nor a DK Metcalf, right? But he plays in that same mold as those two, specifically AJ Brown. But that said, I like how they used him. They moved him around quite a bit. He was outside. He was inside. He was in motion. He was tight to the line. They wide receiver screens, slants, go balls. Like, again, not an expansive route tree per se, but they used him in enough ways that he was able to impact the game greatly. And anytime he touches the football, he's a guy that can make something happen. Again, can attack you vertically. Isn't the fastest guy, but he will attack the football while it is in flight. Again, I talked about this with Jalen Higgins, who was my number 8 wide receiver. And I said, one of the things that plays in this league is size and physicality and speed. And Trey Harris blends the three beautifully. Again, I think it's going to be really interesting to see where he ends up, because if you're going to just line him up and say, hey, go win against man-to-man coverage, I don't know if that's going to get you what you want out of Trey Harris on a consistent basis. But in, critical situations, when you need it down in the red zone on 3rd and 8, he's a guy that I feel like you can go to and he can make something happen, right? If teams get too comfortable with him not stretching the field vertically, I think he can run by you. You put him in motion and you're able to get him on the move, I think he becomes even more of a problem. So he's got a frame. He knows how to use it. I think he's a guy that he intrigues me a ton. And my comp for him is a guy that I don't think a lot of people were really on when he came out a few years ago now, out of BYU. But, he turned into an instant sensation because of where he ended up. Sean McVay saw a perfect fit for his offense. He drafted him. Puka Nacua had one of the greatest rookie seasons we've ever seen from a wide receiver entering the league. Trey Harris reminds me a lot of Puka Nacua. Frame, speed, the ability to, make things happen on the move, use his body, strong hands, will go up and attack the football. Physical, hard to get on the ground after the catch is made. All of these are Puka Nacua qualities. I think if you put Trey Harris in an offense that he fits in, you can get not necessarily similar results to what you got out of Puka Nacua. Over 1,500 yards in his rookie season is insane. But I think you can get some really good results that you will be excited about. And I think with his blend of size, speed, and physicality, I think this is a day 2 selection all day long, all day strong. Of all the guys that we're going to talk about today, I still don't necessarily think Trey Harris is necessarily a number 1 wide receiver in the NFL. I think he might be a high level 2 on par with, say, a T. Higgins, right? That's kind of what I see him as in his role potentially becoming in this league. But who wouldn't take T. Higgins as their number 2, and shit, there are teams out there that probably would take T. Higgins as their number 1. Had he hit free agency, he would have been a number 1 for a multitude of teams, Tennessee, New England, etc. So I think Trey Harris has that kind of potential. But, again, we'll see where he ends up and if that potential is realized or not. Now we move on to number 6 on my list. And this is a guy that I had really no exposure to because I watch a ton of SEC football where I live. And I didn't see a lot of Mountain West ball. If I happened to run into something, it was highlights, and generally it was Boise State and Ashton Genty. So I didn't see a ton of Jaylen Royals, the 6 foot, 205-pound wide receiver out of Utah State. But man, am I impressed. This guy is so much fun to watch. One of my favorite guys to watch at the receiver position. One of the guys that opened my eyes the most at this position. I didn't really, again, I always walk in, no expectations, no preconceived notions. What do you got? And what I saw was a guy that was electric with the ball in his hands. So it's always a good thing just to get it to him. Hitches, wide receiver screens, slants, anything of that nature, right? Quick outs, which he ran a bevy of. But then the vertical stuff was just eye-popping. And his ability to take a short throw, turn it into a big gain, the ability to run by guys, track the football in the air, strong hands. There were a couple of concentration drops, but nothing too, staggering, nothing that makes you go, wait a minute, is this guy legit or what? He had an injury. It cost him some games this year, but I'll tell you what, man, when you look at Jaylen Royals and what he was able to do in an offense where there wasn't a lot, right? Like you go into the game and you got to stop Jaylen Royals. And for him to put up some of the numbers that he did in some of the biggest games, pretty impressive. I was blown away by his skill set, and I think he is one of the hidden gems of this draft. Again, in every 4 or 5 years or so in the draft, every 3-4 years at the receiver position in particular, a guy emerges that not everybody saw emerging as a number 1 wide receiver and a legitimate one, whether it was Stephon Diggs in his draft or I think Justin Jefferson was overlooked in his draft, obviously. There are always guys that you just look and you go, whoa, how did we miss on this guy? And I'm not telling you that people are missing on Jaylen Royals, but I wouldn't be shocked if he's that guy from this draft. Really impressive skill set, kind of fits. Like, where he would be, like, to me, perfectly accepted. They need a guy like this, and he's not going to go in the first round, and they don't like spending first-round picks on him, but they desperately need a number 1 wide receiver. Hell, their star running back, who they got in free agency last year, says, we need a number 1 wide receiver. The Green Bay Packers could use a Jaylen Royals, and they love getting guys like this, it feels like. And I see so much talent with him, and it doesn't hurt that the quarterback there is he went to his alma mater, right, of Utah State. So I could definitely see a situation where Royals ends up somewhere like Green Bay, and it'd be a great fit because they don't have a number 1 receiver. And I don't know if people see Royals as a number 1 wide receiver or not. I do. The talent suggests that he can be. The question is, can he be consistent? Can he put it together? I don't think this is necessarily a great, you have to find the best fit for him. I think he can fit anywhere you put him. He's going to excel because of his talents. This is a guy that ran a 4.42 at the combine, if I didn't already mention that. So the guy has plenty of speed. He has another gear that he can tap into, whether the ball is in his hands or not. He can make people miss. He's strong, got good contact balance. Really like what he brings to the table. My comp for him is Calvin Ridley. When Ridley was coming out of Alabama, you have to remember, and I think a lot of people forget just how devastating Calvin Ridley was as a route runner and with the ball in his hands. And, his ability to start and stop, his ability to accelerate, just like that, were some of the qualities that Calvin Ridley brought to the table. And I see a lot of those similarities with Jaylen Royals. Like, whoa, and Calvin Ridley, before the suspension, before he got popped for gambling, remember, Julio Jones was Batman and he was Robin. And then Julio Jones pretty much missed 2/3 of a season with Atlanta. And it was all on Calvin Ridley. And he had over like 1,100, 1,200 yards. And the Falcons in that moment realized, oh, he can be our number one wide receiver. We think we found our successor to Julio Jones, who was starting to get a little long in the tooth. And so they invested in Calvin Ridley, and then boom, he got hit with the suspension, and the rest is history. And he really has not regained that traction nor momentum since the suspension. But you're talking about Calvin Ridley as a bona fide number one wide receiver in this league at one point in his career. I could see Jaylen Royals being that type of guy. Really impressive. He's my number 6 wide receiver. So now we get to number 5. And I think I said this yesterday, that in this draft, there's 4 and a possible in terms of guys that can be number 1 wide receivers. There's 4 and a possible. This is the possible, right? I think there could be 5 and a possible if you count Jaylen Royals, right? But there's 4 and a possible for sure, right? This is the possible right here. Talking about Ohio State's Emeka Egbuka, 6'1", 202, ran a 4.47 at the combine. He strikes me as the perfect complementary wide receiver. Like, he shouldn't be anybody's number 1, but if he has to be, he can. But he really is supposed to be a high-level, high-functioning number 2 wide receiver in this league, and a damn good one. He's supposed to be Reggie Wayne to somebody's Marvin Harrison, right? That's what he's supposed to be. But make no mistake about it, Emeka Egbuka is the truth. This is a guy that at Ohio State, and we know all of the receivers that have come through there and have gone on to have illustrious NFL careers. He left there as the receptions leader in program history. He was outstanding in his time at Ohio State. And so at 6'1", 202, he offers you solid NFL size at the receiver position. He can run at 4.47, as reliable hands as you're going to find in this year's draft class. He's a tactician, is a route runner. He just does everything really well. I'm not sure that there's one trait that stands like head and shoulders above the rest, but all of his levers, right? All of them are at 90 or slightly above, right? There's nothing at 97 or 98, but everything's right there around 90, 91, right? And you just go across the board. Route running, 91, or 92. Speed, 91. Agility, 90, right? Run after catch, 90, right? Acceleration, 91. And you just keep going, and it's just, you're getting peppered with 90, 91, 92, 90, 90, 91, 92, 92, 92, 91. Across the board, he's just a rock-solid football player. Tempos his routes beautifully, knows where to sit down in zone coverage. Again, can get open, win, get you the first down on 3rd and 8. He's a tone setter. He goes about his business human-like. He's the perfect teammate. He's everything you're looking for. If you're building a culture, that's the guy you want on your football team. He's going to hold himself and everyone else accountable. And when you need him, you can dial him. He'll pick up every single time. And so my comp for him is Brandon Ayuk in terms of his skill set. When you look at Brandon Ayuk, give me one thing that Brandon Ayuk does at an elite level. I'll wait. But there aren't many things that Brandon Ayuk doesn't do really well. And when you think about Brandon Ayuk, I don't know if anybody views Brandon Ayuk as a legitimate number one wide receiver, right? He wanted to be paid like one. He got paid. The 49ers are trying to get out of that contract as we speak. They're looking to trade him, right? Because they feel like they made a mistake, right? They overpaid for a guy. They paid a guy number one money who's a number two wide receiver. It's fine, right? It happens. What they have to do to correct the situation is just find a number one wide receiver and put him back in his slot. When Deebo Samuel was there, even though Deebo wasn't your traditional one, he was the guy that defenses were paying attention to. It freed up guys like Brandon Ayuk to do the things. Same with George Kittle being there. It freed him up to do the things that he was able to do. Brandon Ayuk to me, Emeka Egbuka is very similar in that light. Like if you're not paying attention to him, you'll look up. He's got 84 catches. He's got 1,306 yards, and he's got 9 touchdowns, right? You have to pay attention to him, or that's what's going to happen. But if you have that number one that they have to pay attention to, boy, is he the perfect complement. Boy, is he the perfect complement. And so he's my number 5 receiver on my list. And whoever gets him is going to feel really good, and they're going to be really ecstatic about what they're getting. You're going to get you a reliable number 2 wide receiver with the potential to be a number 1. But if you just allow him to be what he's supposed to be, which is an elite top 3-4 number 2 wide receiver in the league, he'll do exactly that. My number 4 wide receiver is a guy that I think a lot of people, like, I've heard so many, different things about him, and it's sort of a wide-ranging opinion on this next receiver. Either you love him or you don't. I haven't seen that many people in the middle. Either you love him and you're vouching for him, or you can't stand him and you're listing reasons why, and some of the stuff may or may not be true, but a lot of it is out there. I'm talking about Arizona wide receiver Tetairoa McMillan, 6'4", 219 pounds, did not run a 40, and it doesn't seem like he has any intentions of running one prior to the draft, which is understandably and justifiably fine, because I don't think he's going to blaze it. So it doesn't benefit him to run a 40. But he really hasn't done much of anything for the draft. And that, I think, has hurt him. But that's something that we can circle back to at a later date in time. I think some other receivers may have passed him in this process just based off of activity, right? Doing things, showing people that you're willing to compete. He, hasn't done much of anything. And some guys, you can hide behind an injury. Oh, I had surgery. Oh, this is bothering. We can't tell you that something isn't bothering you, right? If you say that you've got a hamstring injury, you got a hamstring injury. Who am I to tell you you don't, right? But what we can do is we can watch the tape. And what you will see is that he is a baller. Now, to what extent? Don't know. But again, we can't beat him up for playing against less than stellar competition. We can't play he hasn't gone up against elite NFL level talent. We can't play that game. All we can do is look at his tape at face value and talk about the things that he brings to the table. 1, he's 6'4". 2, he's 220. You can't coach those things, okay? That's number 1 and number 2. Number 3, he's got tremendous body control, right? His ability to contort his body, adjust to the football, go and attack it at its highest point, make ridiculous catches. That's something else either you have or you don't have. It was one of the things that made Chris Carter one of the greatest receivers in NFL history, his ability to contort his body, make ridiculous catches with strong hands in weird angles, and Tetairoa McMillan can do that as well. I think does a really good job of stacking corners, putting them on his hip and then going and getting a football. So again, using that frame, using his body to his advantage. He understands that very well. He played multiple sports growing up, so that always helps you. You look at him in, a vacuum, and you think about all of the things that I just talked about, and you look at another receiver, and they are very similar in Drake London, which is who I comped him to. I think that's a fairly easy comp to make. It's almost low-hanging fruit. But again, if it's that obvious, it's because it's probably legit. They are very similar. I thought this is the thing that, for me, separates Drake London and made him a top 10 pick, is Drake London played with a sense of urgency and a sense of like aggressiveness that I think Tetairoa McMillan lacks. He's almost aloof, so to speak, is Tetairoa McMillan. And when you listen to him, he's a Cali guy. He's laid back. Nothing really, gets him, hot and bothered. And I think because he's so laid back and that demeanor kind of doesn't scream competitor, people want to use that against him, right? Like he doesn't love football, this, that, and the third. And I'm not here to question a guy's love for the game or any of that. But he's just a cool dude. And some of those guys, you've heard the expression Cali cool. That's a real thing. And that just may be his personality. But Drake London played like his hair was on fire. Drake London wanted to block you into the Gatorade cooler. Drake London wanted to run over you and step on your face mask on his way to the end zone. I just don't get that sense from Tetairoa McMillan, but a lot of their traits and qualities are similar. And so I think there are some out there that, like his, build, but don't necessarily like his mental makeup, but love his physical makeup. I think he can run. I don't think he's slow. I don't think if he ran, he would run a 4.6 anything. It'd be a 4.5 something. And that'd be plenty fast, especially at his size. And he's shown the ability on tape to run. How fast, we don't know, and we won't find out, which is fine. But I think, again, can he be a number one wide receiver? Yes, he can. I think that what's going to be key for him is having a good quarterback. I don't think the system matters. He strikes me as a guy that if he answered the question about quarterbacks he wanted to play with, and he got excited. That's the most I saw him smile, right? Was him talking about playing volleyball, because that was one of the sports he played, and he loved playing volleyball. And when he was talking about quarterbacks, and if you get him in the right situation with a quarterback that he can excel with, that he can kind of gel and mesh with, I think he'll be perfectly fine. You put him in a system where the quarterback situation is miserable and he's not having fun and he's not getting the football, I think it could be a mess for him. He strikes me as a guy that he won't elevate a room or a roster or an offense if the quarterback situation stinks. So you get him with a good quarterback, and I think he can be a 1,400-yard receiver in this league. But we'll see what happens. Tet, to me, is a guy that is going to go in the first round. And, when this process first started, Tet was probably the first receiver not named Travis Hunter taken in this draft. Things may have changed. We'll see, right? But here's one thing that I do know. Whether he's taken 8th, 12th, 16th, 20th, or 24th, he has a chance to be a problem in this league. And he's got number one wide receiver ability. Period. End of discussion. Now, will that manifest itself? We'll see. Checking in at number 3 is a guy that I like a lot. People question him because there's just not a ton of production, but I even liked him back in his days at Houston as a Cougar. Talking about Texas wide receiver Matthew Golden, 5'11", 191 pounds, blazed the combine with a 4.29 40. And I think that helped elevate his stock. When you watch the tape, especially this year at Texas, because again, elevated level of competition. Texas moving to the SEC this year was huge, and he was able to stand up to that competition. And some of his best games were against teams like Georgia, for instance. And he showed the ability to really make, catches in difficult positions. Ball's not the best thrown. He showed the ability to go track the football on the deep ball. He showed, the explosiveness with the ball in his hands. The run after catch ability. He's a tactician as a route runner, so he can separate. There's layers to his game that you love. He's a 3-level wide receiver, right? He can hurt you underneath, shallow cross, hitch, wide receiver screen, slant, out, comeback. He can hurt you in the intermediate, over route, dig route, deep comeback. So, and the routes that they had him running were a little bit more in line with what you'll see at the NFL level, a little bit more, pro concepts with Sark as their offensive play caller. So you saw, a little bit of the stuff that will translate to the next level. Now, I will say he's one of those, I won't block if I don't have to, guys. I don't like that. Like, he really doesn't want to put his hands on anybody if he doesn't have to. Like really doesn't want to put his hands on anybody if he doesn't have to. I'd like him to show more interest. Like, one of the old adages was, if you got to block if you want to rock. He doesn't subscribe to that. Like, yeah, y'all got it, right? You don't need me, right? I'd like to see him show more interest in that, but he's explosive, man. This 4.29 is legitimate. He's dynamic. He's got soft hands, catches just about everything that's thrown in his direction, made some amazing catches this year where you go, whoa, can separate, played against elite level talent and played his best football against that elite level talent. So it shows that he's going to transition to the NFL very nicely. He screams best football yet to come. And again, he's another one of these dudes, irregardless of where you put him, he's going to be successful. Bad quarterback, good quarterback, great offense, poor system, doesn't matter. Just get him the football. He'll do the rest. And I know the numbers don't necessarily bear that out, but I think, again, and he's got to stay healthy. That was something else that wasn't necessarily the best with him while in Houston. And then, I think he was relatively healthy this year at Texas, but that's also something that he has to do is stay healthy. But his best football is yet to come. And I think those who watched him in 2024 in particular, they see it, they understand that. And my comp for him is Stephon Diggs. I think he has a lot of those qualities in him. Faster than Diggs was, obviously, I think Diggs ran a 4.46, 4.47, 4.48, something in that neighborhood. He's way faster, obviously, but the movement skills, the explosiveness, the ability to get on top of receivers or defensive backs and be explosive and make big plays, to make extraordinary catches, to take a short pass, make it a big gain. All of those things he possesses. And I think Matthew Golden has a chance to be really, really good, really, really quickly in the National Football League. And again, he's one of these guys that I see number one wide receiver potential in right out of the packaging. Right. So he's my number 3 wide receiver. Now you get to number 2 on the list. And I'm going to be very honest with you, brutally honest with you, that this was a guy that I was not as familiar with until I watched his tape. I had heard his name. People were throwing it about, early in the process as, top 15 pick. And then I watched him at the combine, and I wasn't really blown away, by his movements and, by his, ability to catch the ball in that environment. And I was like, I don't see what all the fuss is about, which is why you don't go off at the combine, right? So when everybody started talking about him in this light where he'd end up in the season, second round receiver now, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. I watched him at the combine. Yeah, he's a second round receiver. Not overly blown away. And then I watched a little bit of him, a couple clips here and there, and it was just short stuff, him doing, taking the ball, doing something with it. I was like, oh yeah, he's all right. He know that. But then I watched the tape. Then I watched the tape, and I will say in my mind, he was the biggest riser of anybody, because I talk about not coming in with preconceived notions, what I did with him. And he had to knock that wall down and then build up a new one. And boy, did he ever. I'm talking about Missouri wide receiver Luther Burden III, 6 feet, 206 pounds, ran a 4.41 40 at the combine, which is blazing fast, but plenty fast. But he plays even faster than that. And he's way more explosive than that. And so I went in thinking that he's going to be this guy that only catches, short passes, that they get it to him out of the backfield, sort of like Deebo Samuel, not going to really wow me as a receiver. And then I watched the tape and I was like, oh, okay, this is different. He was scintillating to watch. His movement skills are on par with a Justin Jefferson in terms of just, or even a Tyreek Hill for that matter. Like when he has the ball in his hands, there's just this extra gear that he can tap into that you just don't see from most NFL players. His ability in about 2 steps to get from here to there is uncommon. It's uncanny, and there are only a select few of guys in the league that can do that, right? And he's a very unique receiver from this perspective. His movements are that of Garrett Wilson, right? Like sudden, quick, bam, bam, stick, go, start, stop, right? Quick and explosive movements. He's here, he's there. In the blink, you missed him, right? He has contact balance of Amon-Ra St. Brown or a Deebo Samuel, one of these guys that just pinballs off of defenders. If you don't wrap him up and you think you're just going to give him a shoulder, you're in for a long day, right? You're sadly mistaken. He's going to bounce off of you. He's going to keep moving, right? Like, guys could not get him on the ground. You're watching him, you're like, okay, this is a 4-yard gain, and then he bounces off one dude, and then he breaks an arm tackle, and then he stiff arms somebody else, and you're like, wait a minute. How did you get 23 yards out of that, bro? That's a 4-yard catch. But he's so physically built, and he's built like DJ Moore. So generally, when you see guys like this that are built in that Deebo Samuel, DJ Moore type of mold, right? 210 pounds, 6 feet, 210, whatever, 215. They don't have the quickness, though. Like Deebo Samuel isn't lightning fast and quick, right? Just strong as shit. And he's got enough speed that after he makes you miss, he can run away from guys, right? But this is different. This dude moves like Garrett Wilson is a $185, maybe $190, maybe. He moves like he's 185 pounds. He bounces off defenders like he's 210, 215. And he's built like, because he is 205 pounds, right? 206 to be exact. So he's this rare blend. And when you see him, he's got ability to run routes. They moved him around at Missouri. There was the quarterbacking wasn't the greatest, but he made do with what he had. He can stretch the football field vertically. Obviously, he can run right by you. They lined him up outside. They lined him up inside. They lined him up in the backfield. They put him tight, in the formation. They put him at the wing. They moved him, across the formation. They found creative ways to get him the football. He is a matchup nightmare. And the thing is, he can actually be a receiver. Like, he is a receiver. And then you can still do all of the running back stuff with him and move him around and use him as this chess piece. And again, the key with him is you just want to get him in space. Just get it to him, right? And even if it's not in space, as long as he's on 2 feet, like if he doesn't have to jump and leave his feet to catch the ball and he's planted, this guy can make something happen out of nothing. And some of these catches and runs, you just go, whoa, what did I just watch? Like, how did you get from here to there and they didn't get you on the ground? And again, this isn't the Southeastern Conference he's playing in. Well, excuse me. It is the Southeastern Conference. He is playing in the SEC. This isn't the Mountain West Conference that he's playing in, right? This isn't what's left of the Pac-12 or the Big 12, right? Where everybody's having big days against defenses. This is the SEC. It is the Southeastern Conference. This is the best of the best college football has to offer. Although the Big Ten is probably saying, hey, watch your mouth, all right? But he's running by guys. He's running over guys, running through guys, running around guys that'll be playing on Sundays. And he is different. When I tell you Luther Burden III, I don't know what happened between 2023 and now that has people looking at him differently. Yeah, the numbers came down. He's still the same Luther Burden. Trust me. If he's not the second receiver taken in this draft, I will be shocked. I will be shocked. There is so much talent and untapped potential in Luther Burden III. And again, he is scheme diverse, but I'll tell you right now, if he goes to the right team that can fully unlock all of his, like, don't let him end up in the hands of San Francisco 49ers. Like, don't do that. Like, Kyle Shanahan would create and invent ways to get this man touches. It would be sickening watching him thrive in that system. Like, don't let, like, Sean Payton get his hands on a Luther Burden and turn him into this ridiculous offensive weapon. But like, Kyle Shanahan would be the perfect guy to get his hands on Luther Burden III, to be honest with you, because he's a more dynamic, explosive version of Deebo Samuel. And I think has more receiving skills than a Deebo did. He's faster. He's more explosive. He's just as tough with the ball in his hands. He's a load to deal with to get on the ground. He's everything you're looking for. If you're talking about a weapon, Luther Burden III is your man. Like, Savion Williams is cool, but he ain't this. This is different. Now I know what all the fuss about Luther Burden III was about. And if he's available back into the first round, if you're a team that could use a wide receiver in one, what are you waiting on? Like, that's one of those guys where I say, man, it'll be interesting to see how the league views him. Because usually the league doesn't miss on guys like him, like guys that were really good one year and they still had one more year of college football that they had to play before they were eligible. And then they have a down year. The league usually doesn't miss on those guys just because you had that one down year. But we know what you really are. I think some fans have soured on him. I don't think the league has. We'll find out. So now we get to my number one. Oh, and my comp for Luther Burden. Well, I've already told you he's like a mashup of multiple guys. He's like a mashup of multiple receivers. Like, it's hard because he's not 215 pounds like Deebo, but he's a better receiver than Deebo was, and he's more explosive than Deebo is. So it's hard to kind of like just put someone on him. If I had to say, I would say DJ Moore, because of the size. And you remember DJ Moore coming out of Maryland was like a running back at receiver, still learning how to play the position. Just get it to him and he can make something happen. But he's even more explosive than DJ Moore. Like DJ Moore ain't this with the ball in his hands. You know, DJ Moore was tough and he was physical and he was still fast, but this is different. This is different. And then number one, you guys know who number one is. He's a guy that, truth be told, I think right now he is better at the wide receiver position than he is the cornerback position. Talking about Colorado's Travis Hunter, 6 feet, 188 pounds, two-way player, dynamic, won the Heisman Trophy, had over 12, almost 1,300 yards receiving, had like 16 touchdowns receiving this year, 15, 16, some crazy number. Again, he was Mr. Do-It-All for that Colorado team, along with Shedeur Sanders. And he is so dynamic. Now, you know what's very interesting with him is he worked out at the pro day for Shedeur. He didn't plan on doing anything on his own, but he showed support for Shedeur, ran routes for him, caught the football. But he didn't do anything pre-draft, and that's fine. Again, the tape speaks for itself. The man won the Heisman Trophy. We get it. But when's the last time non-quarterback now, when's the last time and I'm pretty sure you'll go, well, Louie, last year this guy didn't do it, and the year before that, these 3 guys didn't do it. But generally, if you're fast, don't you want to showcase your speed? Like Calvin Johnson, once upon a time, was at the combine, didn't plan on doing anything, got the itch. You know, guys were talking trash. He wanted to, his competitive juices started to flow, and he said, hey, somebody give me a pair of cleats. He went out and he ran a 4.3 whatever, and the rest is history. He didn't do anything else the draft. He didn't need to, right? If you can run, then you run, right? If you're fast, don't you want people to know you're fast? It's only going to help if you're fast. If you're not fast, if you're hiding something, then hey, it's only going to hurt you. So don't do it. If Travis Hunter is as fast as he looks on tape, why not run a 40 so we can put a time to it? But despite that, because I heard a rumor, I don't believe it's true, that he ran at Colorado like before, and he ran like a 4.52. I don't believe that's true, but if he were to do that, that would hurt him. So don't do it, right? I get that. But it just feels like he's fat. It feels like he should be running a 4.3 something. He looks like he should be running a 4.3 something. But his ability to, we talked about body control. We talked about making these ridiculous catches, strong hands, the ability to tempo, start, stop, the acceleration. He has all of those things. He's a guy that, again, much like I talked about with Luther Burden, just get it to him in his hands. But one thing about Burden you didn't see a ton of, but you did see it, but you didn't see a ton of it, is him just, beating somebody vertically, right? He can run by guys. He did it in the slot. He ran past guys. But he wasn't seeing like the type of outside coverage where you're just getting somebody man to man and you just got to win. You got to beat them. Like Travis Hunter was. Now, not that he was going up against the best competition at Colorado at the cornerback position and vice versa as a corner at the wide receiver position. But again, that's not his issue. All he can do is take advantage of the opportunity that he's presented with, and he did that in a major way. He doesn't have tremendous size. He's not a great blocker. These are things that you just have to come to grips with. He's only 188 pounds. I don't think he's going to gain a bunch more weight. But when you look at him and his size, his build, he screams Devontae Smith coming out of Alabama. And I was a massive Devontae Smith fan coming out of Alabama. And we've seen what he's done at the NFL level. Despite his diminutive stature in terms, or slender frame, I shouldn't say diminutive, because that would insinuate that he's short, but he's not. He's skinny, he's slender. His frame is very narrow. Despite that frame, Devontae Smith has become one of the best number 2 receivers in the league, and probably would be a number 1 on a lot of NFL, football teams. But Travis Hunter looks like he takes Devontae Smith's abilities to another level now. I think Devontae Smith was a better route runner than Travis Hunter. Hunter is not a great route runner right now, but what he lacks in route running ability, he makes up with agility, the ability to make ridiculously tough catches look ordinary, the ability to run by people, go get the football. His ball skills are tremendous. His ability to take a short pass, turn it into a big play, like, these are the things that he's able to do. Like, Devontae was more of a strider. Like, Hunter, he has the ability to get in and out, right? To do all of that. And that wasn't really Devontae's thing, right? He is a guy that, with fine tuning, because he's a little, rough around the edges as a receiver. But again, I think he's a better receiver right now than he is a corner. But he got a lot better in 2024, because shit, everybody had, Travis Hunter on their 2023, wide receiver highlight tape. Dudes like Torrey Horton and Ayo Manor and guys like that. I mean, they still eating off of 2023. They still eating off of success in their games against Colorado. But it was a lot cleaner and smoother in 2024 as a corner. He really took it to another level all the way around, including the receiver position in 2024, and became a guy where, just put it up there, he'll go get it for you. And again, he has the ability to accelerate just like that, tempo, where I'm coming off slow. Chad Johnson was the master at that. Come off the line of scrimmage slow, like, it's whatever. Randy Moss used to do the same thing. Come off the ball all slow, whatever. Now, oh shit, now he's taking off and Randy's got the arm up. And now he's by you can't catch him, right? And Travis Hunter has that same kind of come off slow. Now, accelerate. Now you can't catch up, right? But I'll tell you this. He can't reach his full potential as a receiver if he's consumed with playing corner, and vice versa. Like, I just think about Deion. I think about Charles Woodson and other guys who came into the NFL with similar backgrounds, right? Deion first came into the league. He was a punt returner at Florida State, as well as a corner, and he dibbled and dabbled on offense. He continued to do the punt return thing, and was really good at it, and play defense. Eventually, and he got some offensive snaps too, but eventually the special teams thing went away. Well, I shouldn't say that, because even when he was in Dallas, when they needed it, they would put Deion back there. He wasn't back there all the time, I don't think. Same with San Francisco, but I do think in like crucial moments, they would put Deion back there. He got offensive snaps with both San Francisco and Dallas, but corner was his main meal ticket, right? That was his claim to fame. And he never lost sight of that. Travis Hunter has to pick a side. Like, this whole conversation about he can do both is cool. He's got to pick a side. I've never seen in my life a wide receiver be full-time, and then, okay, I lied. Troy Brown did it with the Patriots. And he wasn't great at it, but he was okay, right? But I've never seen a guy play receiver full-time and then dabble as a corner. That's weird, right? But we've seen guys be a full-time corner and dabble on the offensive side of the football. That seems more realistic to me. But if you ask me what he's best at right now, I'd tell you it's wide receiver. Now, what I would also tell you, and I've already said this, is with Travis Hunter, corner is more valuable than wide receiver because you can find wide receivers anywhere. Maybe not elite ones, but you don't have to have an elite receiver to win big in this league. They're nice to have. They help you a ton, but it's a lot harder to find elite level corners. He has the potential with his wide receiver background to be an elite level corner. His ball tracking skills, his ball skills, and his ability to, run routes for the receiver, understanding route running, understanding how that receiver is looking at the game from a cornerback perspective, but also from that receiver's lens, because he is a receiver, it helps him even more, right? Puts him in a position, and his agility, his ability to click and close, plant, drive on the football, run routes for guys. That's what Will Johnson does such a great job of. His is next level, is Travis Hunter. And that's why it might suit him best to just be a corner that can play wide receiver. But if you ask me which one of the two he's best at right now, it's wide receiver. And so I think he has a chance to be really special if he just chooses a side. He could be a Pro Bowl wide receiver in year one. I don't know if he'll be a Pro Bowl corner in year one. I mean, he could come on the scene on some Sauce Gardner type shit. I could see it. But this feels, offensively, it feels like more of a sure thing than it does defensively. Because I've like, he's not great in run support. He's not a great tackler. He's kind of undersized, at the cornerback position. Like receiver, nobody cares that you're 190. Plenty of 190 wide receivers getting their shit off in the NFL. But if you're not gonna be a presence as a run defender and run support, if you're trying to sling the guys down on the ground, look, there's some 215, 220-pound dudes that you try that, I'm gonna just throw you shit. You just gonna throw them up the field and they're gonna get more yards. That's what happened when he was playing Alec Manor, right? Like he tried to sling him, and he's like, "Oh, don't mind if I do. Thanks for catapulting me to a 60-yard touchdown. Appreciate it." But at receiver, you cook dudes at 190. So I think there's a chance that he could be really special at the receiver position. He's my number one wide receiver. So that is my list of wide receivers. To me, this group at the top has a chance to be a difference-making group with Hunter and Golden and Burden and McMillan and Egbuka in particular. And Royals, I think, is one of the sleepers of this draft, right? When we start talking about receivers and what they can ultimately bring to the table, I think Jaylen Royals has a chance to be one of the guys that comes out of this draft as a gem. And he'll be a day two guy. Everybody that I talked about today will be a day two guy. I don't foresee any of these guys making it out of the third round. And most of the guys that I mentioned today are either first or second round picks. First or second round picks. Royals may be slept on and may get to the third round. Trey Harris may be slept on and get to the third round. They're not getting out of the third round. Neither of them are. So, This is a solid group of receivers. And at the top, there is potential for these guys to really become mainstays, household names in the NFL. We'll see what happens. But that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T, here on my Draft Prospects 101 wide receiver series. We'll move on to the tight end position. Another really good group there. We'll talk about what that group has to offer, and we'll move on to the next group after that. So we'll continue on our journey towards the 2025 NFL Draft, which is now officially 2 weeks away. So I look forward to hearing from you guys as we continue to forge forward to the NFL Draft. But until then, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. You guys have a good one. Take care. See you next time.